Rimworld has two main Bionics mods, Ras Bionics and EPOE. Both of these mods are fantastic. I've reviewed both of these on this channel and they are amazing mods. However, when I look back at those videos and I look back at the mods, there's one thing that stands out between both of them. When it comes to brain implants and brain bionics, they're a little bit sparse and they don't necessarily go in depth as some of the other limbs of the body. Introducing Git's Cyber Brains mod, a mod that has come out very recently and has scored extremely highly in terms of ratings, and a mod that I just had to check out. Not only because of how good it looks, but because you guys have also recommended it. Let's get into things and start with the content. So starting looking at the content, let's begin with the Steam Workshop page. What is there and what do we see? Well, this Steam Workshop page starts with a lovely little thumbnail here, a really eye-catching thumbnail I might add, something that personally drew me to this mod almost straight away. The rest of this mod page is amazing. We've got in-depth descriptions of everything, there's lore and everything for this mod as well. This is a fantastic Steam Workshop page. The only recommendation I have for any improvements for this page is maybe some pictures of the stuff in game, maybe a little bit more on that side, but then again, it's not necessary. So what do these brain implants look like in game? Well, before I show you, I want to show you the tech tree because I think it's really important to go through this so we understand what we're getting at each tech level. Now, on the face of things, this tech tree is massive. It's super in depth, and on the one would assume that it would provide a lot of new content, which it does. Kind of. This tech tree has got 15 different levels of research, and only at 6 of these levels do we actually get new things seemingly added. Now, I say seemingly because only at these 6 levels do we actually get given a new item to make or produce. The rest of the levels we don't seem to get anything, apart from a nice description, which on the surface of things just adds lore. Now, I took the time to understand this tech tree because there is a lot here. The levels that we don't seem to be provided new content, we do actually get provided certain things. New bonuses to the implants and new ways to be able to use certain things. This isn't necessarily made clear enough in my opinion, and I think to some players who don't necessarily want to spend the time to learn everything, it could be quite off-putting to see a tech tree like this and not seemingly get anything out of it. A bit of an addition to the description of every tech level to show what actually is given would be really, really good here. Otherwise, this tech tree is amazing. So now that we understand the tech tree, let's look at the content in game. Now, this mod adds 23 brand new brain implants and then 1 component in order to make the brain implants. All these different brain implants are at different specializations, different tech levels, and provide different and unique bonuses depending on what you're putting in your colonists. So what different tech levels are we going to be accessing all these different items? So to begin with, we have the micro machines. These are accessed through the micro machine research option. Next, we have the basic brain. This is accessed through the basic cyberization research option. Next, the enhanced brain, and follows on to this enhanced cyberization option. And then lastly, we have the 2 brains that are provided by the extreme cyberization option. These are the most advanced brains that are added by this mod. Then we have a large group of brains that are accessed through the specialized cyberization option. And then lastly, a small group that are accessed through the advanced specialized cyberization option. So we have a decent spread of brain implants that are accessed at all different tech levels. So what about the rest of the tech options that don't necessarily seem to add any abilities or anything that you can make? Well, these tech options give the ability to actually use the cybernetic brains to access the almost psi-casting function within them. We get access to new abilities that the brains can do to make your lives easier in terms of combat, medical ability, just being able to work faster, maybe be able to research faster and go from there. These extra little abilities make the basic cyber brains even better and mean that you in combat situations or any of the other situations I've mentioned, you will get the edge for a certain amount of time, which is fantastic. So apart from the bonuses that we get from having these researchers done to get the extra psi-casting abilities from these implants, what other reason do I have for actually implanting these cybernetic brains? Well, if I go into the information tab to look at these cybernetic brains to see what we're getting, unfortunately, not much is listed. We get the increase of part efficiency, which is kind of expected, and that's about it. An issue with this mod that I seem to be coming across is that not enough information is being provided in the right sections necessarily. It's not to say that there isn't there at all, it's just a little bit more difficult to get and it takes a little bit of time to work out what's going on. So if I click on a colonist that has got an actual cybernetic brain installed into them and look at the stats provided, yes, we can see it here and we can see it there, that everything is there. And we can see comparing the basic and the advanced and then the extreme cybernetic brains that yes, we do get extra bonuses from these brains that aren't necessarily listed in the information tab. And then alongside the 23 brand new brain implants, we've also been given access to 2 new diseases. These diseases are exclusive to colonists that are adapting to their brand new brain implants because it's not necessarily going to go right every single time. The first one is the cyberbrain sclerosis. Now this basically makes your colonists have a limited amount of time before they die. nice. We also have the closed shell syndrome, which is described as the cybernetic equivalent of the trauma savant, basically. So you do get a lot of bonuses from having this one, but your colonist is then incapable of social. So that's going to be it for the content section of the review, and I think the content here is amazing. In fact, I can barely fault it. Every different brain has got a different specialization. We've got different levels of tech for it. It's amazing. The only issue I've got with the content of this mod is the information is not provided coherently enough and nor in the right places. When I look at the tech tree and I'm given 15 different options and 6 of them only seem to be providing content and the rest of them I don't know what they're giving me, it's a little bit annoying. Whilst I did find out by myself what they did and what I got given, those that are playing this mod and don't necessarily want to spend that time to research it in themselves, they're going to miss out. And then not being able to see the actual stats of the brains that when I'm clicking on them on the information tab is a little bit annoying as well. Imagine if I wanted to implant a melee specialization brain into somebody with a melee skill. I don't know which brain it is because I haven't been given the information, and I give it to the wrong colonist. That would kind of piss me off a little bit. So I think the content that's here is amazing. It's literally perfect, but the information I want to get alongside this, the stuff that I'm expecting to see from a Bionics mod, it's not there for some reason, and I don't understand why. So for content, I'm very content at giving it an 8 out of 10. It's literally perfect. We just need to see the information in the expected places and be a little bit more coherent about it. So next, let's move on to the quality of the items added by this mod and see what they look like. So zooming on the Micro Machines item, looks really good. I'm really happy with the texture quality here, and I think the intricacies of the design are amazing. Moving on to the basic Cyber Brain, the enhanced Cyber Brain, and the extreme Cyber Brains. These ones are of a nice quality, and I like the color differential between them, so I know the different quality level. Moving on to the specialized Cyber Brains, these all look the exact same. There's no texture quality difference, there's no color difference, and they all just look pretty basic. What I'd like to see here maybe is a different coloring of them depending on what specialization there are. Maybe a red one for the shooting or the melee, maybe a yellow texture hue for maybe the mining, or perhaps a blue one for the medical specialization. I think there could be a little bit more done here to be able to differentiate between the different specializations here. So that's it for the quality section, and I think overall I'm generally pretty happy with the quality of everything. Everything meets my expectations and everything is of a certain texture quality that I like. However, like I said, I would like to see definitely a difference between some of the more advanced brains and the specialized brains, because when you look at them and there's just a whole heap of brains, they just kind of look the same. I would definitely like to see maybe a different color, a different style, depending on what company, what specialization the brains provide, just a little bit more so that from a glance, I know exactly what I'm looking at. So overall for quality, I'm very happy once again giving an 8 out of 10. Next, let's move on and look at the balancing section of this review. Now, in my opinion, this is the most important section for this review, because if these bionic brains are way too overpowered or way too easy to access, then it's going to literally throw the rest of your playthrough out the window. First, let's compare the 3 basic brain levels and see how they perform. So first, let's look at the basic Cyber Brain. This is the very first Cyber Brain you're going to have access to, so the expectations is that it only provides a little bit of a bonus, which is true. We get a plus 10% in consciousness, 5% in manipulation, and a 15% extra in part efficiency. Makes sense so far. Next, let's move on to the enhanced Cyber Brain. This is the second brain that you're going to have access to within this mod. So what I'm expecting here is going to be maybe slightly more than double what we're getting from the basic Cyber Brain, which is true. Yes, we do get access to double the amount of manipulation. We get access to a little bit extra in terms of consciousness, and we also get access to 50% plus in global learning speed, which is a nice little buff. Alongside of that, we get some psychic stuff, but none of the percentage increases are something that I'm going to look at and think, whoa, that's way too overpowered. So far, it's all still making sense. So next, let's look at the extreme Cyber Brains. So of the trio of basic to enhanced to extreme, these are the last ones you'll be getting that do an all across the board stat increase. Looking at these, this is insane. This literally increases the stat efficiency of everything. You could be doing mining at a higher speed, you could be researching at a higher speed, hacking at a higher speed. This covers the entire board. The Poseidon PX7 is insane. I would like to add though that some of these percentage increases aren't actually that much, and when you actually look at some of the specialized limbs and the percentage increase that they get, some of them actually do better than the Poseidon PX7, which I think is designed to just do a little bit of everything pretty good. And the other extreme Cyber Brain we have access to is the Locus Hades Brain, and this one is a combat specialized implant. So the stats here are absolutely insane. Literally nothing compares to this for the rest of the mod, and when I say that you can also use the psycasting stuff to get extra benefits out of this implant, this is just ridiculous. you'd expect the resource cost here to be extremely high, which we'll touch on in a minute. Next, let's go back and look at the Poseidon PX7 brain implant. If you remember, this brain implant was extremely good, literally increasing the speed in which your colonists can do literally every single job within the game, whether that be drilling, researching, pissing and shitting. This increases the speed of everything. So when we look at the tech cost of this, we're expecting this to be pretty high, but it's not. It actually costs more research to go from basic cyberization to enhanced cyberization than it does go for enhanced cyberization to extreme cyberization. I don't know if the mod creator slipped or something and missed out the extra zero, but it just seems way too cheap to access. It comes across that the extreme cyberization brain implants should be very late game and arguably the last thing you access within this mod, and I think that needs to be changed. I think we should only be able to access the extreme cyberization research as an option once we've done every single tech within this mod. It's almost easier to access extreme cyberization than it is to advanced specialized cyberization, only costing 500 research more, especially when we consider the extra bonuses we're getting from the extreme brain implant. This doesn't seem quite right if you ask me. So looking at the tech cost of the cyber brains, things are a little bit weird, and I don't necessarily agree with some of the decisions made. So when we come to looking at the resource cost, I am genuinely expecting the extreme cyber brains to be very, very expensive for what we're definitely getting out of it. So looking at the brains, not including the extreme brains, the rough cost is about 35 hyperweave, roughly 12 gold, anywhere from 6 to 8 advanced components, and then 2 micro machines, which also have a resource cost of a couple of advanced components, some steel and some other things. So this makes sense, and I think this is actually a very fair cost for you to make in-game for an extreme investment. When it comes to the extremely good cyber brains, the Poseidon PX7 and the Solus Hades, what I'm expecting here is at least double the resource cost. So when I came to look at this, and it was literally only a few more hyperweave, double the gold, and only 2 more advanced components and only 1 more micro machine, I was pretty disappointed. For the amount of benefits we're getting from the Poseidon PX7 and the Solus Hades, this is super cheap. I don't understand why we've only got an increase of roughly 3 advanced components for something that is literally giving you more benefits than you know what to do with. The resource cost for literally everything makes perfect sense apart from the extreme cyberbrain implants. I think that the resource cost needs to be at least doubled from what it is now, especially bearing in mind what we'll have access to when we get it. So far, everything seems very balanced, apart from the extreme cyber brains. So that's going to be it for the balancing, and I think overall everything is pretty well balanced, apart from one thing. Can you guess what it was? The extreme cyber brains. Holy shit. Not only are they way too cheap to access through tech, they are way too cheap in terms of resources in my opinion. I want to see a huge increase in tech cost for these, at least make them the exact same amount of resource cost potentially, but making the prerequisites to be literally everything else within this mod's tech tree. And the resource cost, why is it only 3 more advanced components than it is to get the most advanced specialized limbs? It just doesn't seem that expensive. I don't know what it is. The amount of bonuses that we're getting and the amount of things that we're going to be able to access to with these extreme cyber brains, is it really only 3 advanced components more expensive? I don't think it is. But overall, the balancing is very good. All the rest of the cyber brains I think cost a very fair amount, and they're going to be something you'll be going to be investing into 1 colonist or maybe 2 at a very late stage of your game. In terms of the tech cost as well, it all seems to make sense with everything going up in a fair amount of value. So overall for balancing, literally everything is fantastic. It's really, really well balanced, apart from the extreme cyber brains, and I'm not sure where we've gone wrong with that. So overall, I'm going to be giving it a 7 out of 10. So next, let's look at the compatibility. Are there any bugs I need to let you know about, and how does this fit with your playthroughs? Now for me, who's playing this with absolutely no other mods installed, I had no issues whatsoever. No bugs, no nothing, everything ran perfectly. Looking at the Steam Workshop page, it seems there are some reports of bugs and some compatibility issues with some other mods. It's nice to see that this mod is compatible with Combat Extended if that's what you're into, and otherwise you just need to be careful playing with other Bionics mods that are affecting the brain. But otherwise, pretty good. And then how will this fit with your playthrough? Now, funnily enough, this isn't going to work in the tribal era nor the medieval era. And in fact, I'm not even too sure if it fits in with the industrial era. This mod fits perfectly with late game Rimworld in the Architect/Sci-Fi era and Spacer era. I think it would really help if you're playing this mod in a very comprehensive mod pack that is specialized around combat and around the Spacer era. Otherwise, you're not going to be having a great time with that. So overall, in terms of compatibility, just because there are some bugs that you need to be aware of, and this doesn't really fit in with much of Rimworld, I'm going to be giving it a 6 out of 10. So next, let's look at my mod recommendations. And like I said in the compatibility section, this mod will really flourish in a large, comprehensive mod pack based around the late industrial era / spacer era. And as a result, I've based my mod recommendations on that. So to start with, I've gone for the mod recommendations that the mod author has actually put in a Steam Workshop page: Bionics Icons mod, the Elix Bionics Frameworks, EPO, and the Eccentric Technical mod, and RBSE. These mods are just a given for this mod. Next, we've got the more linkables mod, so you can really guarantee that you're going to pass your surgery with flying colors. And then even more to do with your surgeries working, the Glitterworld Uprising mod, a lovely little mod to get Glitterworld medicine. Then next, I've gone for the Faction Void mod, just because you've got all these amazing bionics, so you may as well have a go against Void. Then lastly, I've gone for a lovely mod that I have previously reviewed, Stone and Steel, a Hyperweave Adventure, a small amazing mod that allows you to craft Hyperweave. The mod recommendations that go with this mod are pretty good actually, and there's a lot of them. Because this is a Bionics mod, it can literally fit into any playthrough as long as it fits the era, which is the spacer era and late industrial. So overall, for mod recommendations, because it actually does a pretty good job, I'm very content at giving it a 8 out of 10. Lastly, my conclusion. So my conclusion, where am I at with this? I think this mod is amazing, and I think in the right playthrough it is an essential. Brain bionics and brain implants just aren't gone into enough by mod creators, and the mod creator here does a fantastic job at giving an in-depth experience into brain bionics. However, the one area that this mod lacks is information. There's not enough information in the tech tree for what I'm getting at certain tech levels, and the information actually provided when I'm clicking on the icons for the brain implants, I'm not given all the information and I don't know where it is. An immediate change is definitely needed there, just so I know what I'm actually getting into, and for newer players that are playing with this mod, they would definitely benefit from that as well. I'm also not impressed at the balancing for the extreme cyber implants. I don't like that they are too easy to access and they're not actually that expensive, and I definitely want to see that changed as well. Otherwise, this mod is literally amazing. So for content, I gave it 8 out of 10, quality 8 out of 10, balancing 7 out of 10, compatibility 6 out of 10, my mod recommendations 8 out of 10, giving it the grand total score of 37 out of 50, which is an extremely good B-rated mod. Like I said, once these small changes have been made, this mod will be elevated to a very solid A-rated mod. And if there's some more compatibility patches that come out for this, and there's some updates to being able to use this with more mods that affect the brain, this would be even better. But don't base your opinion on what I've said. This is still an amazing mod, and I recommend that you check this out for yourself. So if you have enjoyed today's mod review, consider liking, subscribing, and make sure you tell your mum about me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.